Hey guys, this will be a little bit of a pre-intro I guess. So in one of my recent videos, I just mentioned like a Fanatical bundle that was going on. There's a new Fanatical bundle as well as a May Madness deal thing going on, but it's called the Killer Bundle 26. So they have a total of, what is it here? 24 games, sorry, 19 of which are compatible on the Steam Deck. They have it listed for 443 Canadian dollars, so that's probably like $3 US, I guess. And then as a sale price is 26.75. So a pretty good deal, I guess. You got some decent games in here: The Ascent, Dead Island, Rain World. That one actually looks pretty cool. As you go down, like there's some kind of games, but for the most part, there's probably something here for everyone, I could imagine. Whether it's a platformer, like Dishonored is a good game too. Which brings me to my next point. I went ahead and bought this bundle because there's a couple games in here that I wanted, but then there was a couple games that I just wanted to give away as well. And I bought there was an optional $2 something add-on for 2 mystery games. So I did that as well, and I actually got one okay-ish game, I guess, if you're into that style of game, and then another game that actually looks really cool that I'd never heard about, that I was debating about keeping, but I already got pretty big backlog anyway. So I'll give that one away in a later video as well. But to start off, we'll just give away Dishonored. So it's a Steam Deck verified game. The way I'm going to give it away, though, is I'm just going to put little title stamps like embedded into the video in order of the code. So it's going to be sequential order. So unfortunately, you're going to have to watch the whole video if you really care about winning it or getting it. Otherwise, like, I know it's an older game, it's on Game Pass and stuff, but if you want it on Steam or you didn't have it or if you want to check it out, whatever. If you really want it, then unfortunately you're going to have to watch the whole video to get the full code. I figure it's probably the best way to doing it. I don't know like how like bot video scrubbing works these days. I don't know if that works or if it's a thing, but I figured this way it might make it a little bit more fair. And for somebody that actually wants the game, then they're a little bit more incentivized to actually put in the work to get it. And maybe deter somebody who just wants to, I'll redeem it just to get it, But whatever, I'm giving it away, so whoever wants to get it, go for it. But yeah, so then we'll just continue on with my actual intro to the video here now, guys. Thanks. Hey guys, hope you're all doing well. This is going to be a follow-up video to my past Tears of the Kingdom video of the Yuzu versus Ryujinx versions and all that. So this one's going to be more kind of in-depth into Yuzu, as well as more of a optimization, more benchmark results and things like that. So if you like data, I did a lot of it. Hopefully it's up to your guys' standards. Let me know what you guys think if you want me to test other things but we'll get into it. Okay, so first up, the benchmark run that I did was the same one in my first video. It was just the intro nosedive with the title sequence and all that. It's just the most repeatable one where I could measure performance differences and things like that. And then from there, I took my results from what you're about to see and applied it to just a little kind of custom gameplay benchmark run that I did. Nothing fancy, not even a part of the open world yet, still in the tutorial open world area. So again, the performance later on in the game likely will get worse at spots. Could get better in some spots, but it'll be on a case-by-case basis. So anyway, so I have the latest FPS mods, the latest dynamic FPS mod as well. There was one that came out, I believe, today or yesterday, 1.4, I believe, for the dynamic mod. So for my first testing that I did, I'm running Yuzu Early Access 3594. It's the latest one out, and again, there was one just out before. I was running 3588 not too long ago, like a couple days ago, so they're firing out the Early Access builds quickly. And I'll leave a link to his Patreon build and all that stuff down there for the Yuzu team. But anyway, so getting into it, the 20 FPS, 30 FPS, and 60 FPS with the dynamic FPS mod applied as well. For 20 FPS, you can see we had a 20.9 FPS average, which we're basically locked at 20 there for the most part. I mean, you can see obviously with the 1% lows and the 0.1% lows, that's where the stutters kind of come in with the shader compilation and everything. Now, for this run, I did do the initial run, and then I kind of ran around the bottom area and swam around the water, did my initial kind of benchmark run as well to get all those shaders compiled myself, because my shader build that I had for 3588 was not working with 3594. So I had to build my own shaders. So I did all that and then ran all these benchmark runs. So for the 30 FPS, you can see that we have a 27.4 average, 9.11% low, and a 4.4.1% low. For the 60 FPS mod, very similar, within margin of error, honestly. Like, they're all within margin of error. Less so with maybe the 20 FPS mod and the 1% lows here. So you'll see I went with the 30 FPS mod dynamic going forward because there was really no difference between the 60 and 30. Technically, it did perform a smidge better, but barely. So the next test we did was in the Yuzu settings, I did fast GPU off, and then my Yuzu default settings that I had before shown in the video. So as you can see here, with the fast GPU off, we have an average of 28.4 versus 27.4. And then we have a 1% low, of 7.2 versus 9.1, and a 0.1% low of 1.4 versus 4.4. So I chose to leave fast GPU on. Now I tested the force max clock as well. As you can see, we have a 26.5 versus 27.4 FPS average, a 2.8 versus 9.1, 1% low, and a 0.7 versus 4.4, 1.1% low. My apologies. So I chose to go with, forcing max clocks on, which was a part of the Yuzu default. So then I went from GPU high, which was a part of the Yuzu default, to GPU normal to test the difference between that. As you can see, we have a 27.6 versus 27.4 FPS average, 5.1 versus 9.1, 1% low, and a 1.5 for the GPU normal versus a 4.4, 0.1% low, So I chose to leave GPU on high. Now I tested the custom resolution as well, and you can see here it honestly didn't make too much of a difference. It's all within margin of error. If anything, it made it perform worse. So I left that as default, so it's the 720p in handheld and the 1080p docked mode. So then I went and changed the CPU option to unsafe, and as you can see, we have a 26 versus 27.4 FPS average. We have an 8.4 1% low and a 1.2 low. Again, so I chose to leave CPU on auto as a part of my default settings. Once I had all of my Yuzu settings figured out, that's when I went into Steam, SteamOS, and with the power tools, and that's when I started doing SMT testing, GPU, and CPU testing as well. So that's what we're going to get into here. Again, this is still all done through the intro cutscene. So for SMT on and off, SMT on was my old user results that you can see. So SMT off, we have a 27.4 FPS average versus 27.4, so we're neck and neck there. SMT off, we have 9.4 versus 9.1. Again, fairly close, and then 4.4 versus 4.4. So from what I've seen online, there seems to be more stability with SMT on, and through just this initial little intro, and then I did do a rerun with SMT on to get a new result here. So as you can see, we got an 8.4, 1% low versus 9.1, so it's still within margin of error, right? Like, we're still getting 27, 27, 27. So with that being said, I chose to leave SMT on Now, this may be subjective. It may alter some results in certain scenes. I don't know exactly. Let me know in the comments if you have SMT on or off and what your results and experiences have been like that with that, so far. Anyway, so moving on. I went into, again, the intro benchmark, and now I'm doing the GPU clock speeds. So, as you can see, I'm not going to go and name through all of them. If you really care that much, you can pause and take a look at it. I'll just kind of highlight some of the standout points here. So, the rerun sanity check is my new Yuzu default. So, that's a 27.2 FPS average, 8.4, 1% low, and a 4.1% low. So, going from default, whatever it does on its own, to locking it at 600 megahertz, we saw a 26.1 FPS average, but what's interesting is the 1% low has got a boost up to 12.6. And the 0.1% lows, they got a slight boost as well, but that's kind of within margin of error. It's only 0.6. So really, what you can see here is by forcing the GPU, is we are just increasing up to a point our 1% lows, and then it kind of gets beyond diminishing returns. So what I chose to do going forward, and again, you can kind of go off the results here and kind of pick and choose what you want to do, but I chose to use 800 megahertz as my GPU lock going forward as my new default settings. So with that, I also tested the CPU and the GPU pinned out max, and as you can see here, we got a 28.5 FPS average, a 13.8 1% low, and a sorry, my apologies. I didn't change over to the new defaults yet. This is the old rerun sanity check still. My apologies. So it's 13.8 1% low versus 8.4 1% low. And then 4.1% low for the default there, and versus 1.7 for the CPU and GPU pinned. Now, for just the CPU pinned, GPU doing its own thing, we have a 27 FPS average, 5.71% low, and a 1.2.1% low. So with that going forward, we moved on to our new default now, with the 800 megahertz GPU lock. CPU was set to auto. I didn't lock that at anything. So this was our old default here. This was the old default, with the 8.4. This was the first run with the 800 megahertz GPU lock, and then this was just a second run that I did. As you can see here, though, we had a 1.8 0.1% low compared to the 4.9 and 4 of the other two runs. So that is, honestly, that was just kind of the shader compilation. Like, that's all it is, right? Like, it's gonna happen whether you've done the run a dozen times like I already had, or whether you've done the run through somebody else's shaders or whatever. You're gonna have that shader compilation stutter at points, but you can still see here the averages are fairly decent. So if you're okay playing with stutters, like, you're gonna get stutters. As more updates come out with Yuzu and more mods and more updates for the mods and all that stuff come out, I guarantee we can get very, very close to Nintendo Switch performance. Maybe a little bit better, but I would settle for close to, honestly. And this is honestly getting there. It's just those stutters and those moments of like little lockups here and there. So anyway, moving on. So this is where I did my gameplay benchmark now. So I'll show kind of in the background here my benchmark run and what I did. So again, I did the run a couple of times and ran around in the area to build up all the shaders, and then I started doing the benchmarks. So as you can see here with my old default settings, before locking into the 800 megahertz and any of that, we had a 28.7 FPS average, 7.91% low, and a 2.1.1% low. Now for the new defaults with the 800 megahertz GPU lock, we had a 28.9 FPS average, 8.9 1% low, and a 2.2 0.1% low. These tests were all done in game mode as well, not desktop mode. Not that it should make a difference, but I did notice in my experience, it was running a little bit smoother in gameplay mode versus desktop mode, or game mode, sorry, on the Steam Deck. So then I started playing with the TDP to see what we could kind of do with there. So with our new default here, we have, again, 28.9, 8.9, 2.2. So I just went down to 10 watts here. I didn't bother doing anything in between. And then you can see we got 27.3, a 7, 2.2. Again, I'm not going to go down all these, but you can see, obviously, as you decrease the TDP, it decreases the FPS, rightfully so. So what you could do, though, is maybe put it at the 10 watt TDP, and that's fairly similar to 15 watt, and you could probably play from there fairly well, I think. Heck, you might even be able to get away with the 8 watt, because even though the FPS average is a little bit lower, the 1% low and the 0.1% low is fairly similar as well. I personally wouldn't go below 8 watts, but if you want to, here's the results for that. So this is when I went into my old Yuzu version that I was using that was only a couple days old, I believe, 3588, and that's when I had the Endgame shader build as well. So I just reran all these tests in the gameplay benchmark versus the 3594 early access build, just to see the differences, to see if having the Endgame shaders helped or if having my own personal shaders was better. And as you can see here in the newer Yuzu build and with having my personal shaders, whether that made a difference or not, you can see that the performance in the newer build is better overall. We have a 28.9 FPS average versus 26.9 FPS average, 8.9 1% low versus 5.7 1% low, and a 2.2 0.1% low versus 1.3 0.1% low. And then finally, sorry, I know this is probably going to be a bit of a longer one. I saw somewhere somebody say, oh, if you want 30 FPS, just put it on your SSD. Make sure it's on your SSD. So I did that test as well, running the 3594 build at this point with my new defaults. And here was the averages for that. And as you can see, within margin of error, absolutely. But if you want to be technical, the SD card did better than the SSD. And I have a Kioxia 512 gigabyte, whatever SSD put in there. Again, just when you think you're done doing the editing and everything, as I was putting together all the old settings and everything, I noticed that there was two settings I didn't really play with, and nor did I mention online too much, other than the async shader building. That I saw as it being a requirement, I believe, for the 60 FPS mod. And honestly, I think it might be for the 30 FPS or dynamic. I honestly don't remember where I read it, but use it at your own risk, as well as the accelerate ASTC texture decoding, like turning those off. Just use it at your own risk. But I figured it was worth mentioning. So with both of those settings off, with my old settings combined, we can see that versus my best 800 megahertz run that I got doing my custom gameplay benchmark, versus having both of these settings off, we got a 29.2 FPS average versus 28.5 FPS average, which is okay, whatever, margin of error. But the big gain here is the 1% lows. So we have 11.5 versus 7.1. And I did this test multiple times. I did it multiple times, and it was still within margin of error, but always consistently around 11, 12 for the 1% lows. Same thing with the 0.1% lows. It was all significantly higher, other than the FPS average. Sorry. I tried with the accelerate ATCS on and async shader building off, and these were the results here. So you can see that these are worse then. So going forward, these are the recommended settings that I would use. Playing it on Yuzu on the Steam Deck, 3594, early access Yuzu, use these settings. This is the best results that I've gotten with this combination. So, in conclusion, Tears of the Kingdom is playable on the Steam Deck. It's definitely not optimal. It's not the same as the Switch. The Switch runs it much, much better. I do believe that the Steam Deck will get better with the updates and more mod updates and everything coming along. It's in a very good state right now in such a short amount of time, and that cannot be understated whatsoever. From the incredible developers behind these mods, behind Yuzu and Ryujinx and all that, like it's amazing how quickly it's come together. So, in my opinion, I'm going to wait to play it on the Steam Deck and continue playing it on the Switch. And with the intention of revisiting it and keeping up to date with it, with the updates with Yuzu and the mods and everything, and just keeping an eye on it. If I see that there's any major kind of breakthrough performance-wise, or if somebody has some magical settings I haven't tried, or whatever, and they do produce far better results, I will do another video. I'll amend this one or something. Like, I'll do an updated video at some point. But for now, that's going to do it for this one. Sorry for the kind of like shoehorned in giveaway. I just kind of got carried away with all the data and benchmarking and stuff. Been at it for like 6 hours now or so. And yeah, so I kind of shoehorned it in after while editing. So it, hopefully somebody got it. I hope somebody deserved it, or that deserved it got it. Congratulations to the winner. I just asked that if you did get it, just leave a comment saying, hey, yeah, I got it. Like, don't even thank me. Like, if you already have the game or you give it to somebody else, just say, hey, yeah, I got it, just so I know somebody got it. So it's not like a bot or something. I don't know how far advanced bot technology is with these free code giveaway things. So hopefully this kind of like sparsed out method worked a little bit better. And again, it's for Dishonored, so it's nothing new. I'll continue to give away some more keys later on, but yeah. So if you enjoyed the video, great. I'm not going to ask you to subscribe or give me a thumbs up or whatever. I don't really care, to be quite honest with you. Anyway, that'll do it for this one. So hopefully you guys have a great day.